My name is David Daniel Ball, and these are the headlines for Thursday, the 26th of March, 2009. Defense accused of leaking dirt file on Fitzgibbon. World president in trouble? Months after Europe anointed candidate Obama next leader of the free world, he faces potential public relations disaster there at the G20 summit. Mexico nabs most wanted drug lord. U.S. Navy chemist may have rediscovered cold fusion. Man shot in chest and buttocks in Sydney driveway. Student liaison cop on child sex charges. 3 Aussies seriously wounded in Afghanistan. Men raid service station with sledgehammer. 5 charged over ATM skimming scam. Powerful storms lash Sydney's southwest and Blue Mountains. And in comments, we were warned about airport security 4 years ago. We were told our airport security was rubbish in 2005. So why wasn't anything done? Chris Smith wants answers. Terrorists are controlling Indian cricket. The decision to move the Indian Premier League from the subcontinent to South Africa is a win for terrorism, according to Alan Jones. Dead in the water and 2 more years of labour to go. From Piers, Akerman, Thursday, March the 26th, marks the halfway mark of the New South Wales Labour government. More tears than laughter, more pessimism than optimism. I think this article highlights how good the few years were for New South Wales under Nick Greiner. The wealth that he endowed the state while others fell into screaming heaps can be best illustrated by how long the ALP has retained office without falling into a screaming heap since, and the fact that there was a great federal government for much of the time to suck funds off. The talent of the ALP are aware that they have sucked the teat dry. All that is left is the ideologues and those deemed worthy of carrying the can. One is not sure if the ALP will ever pay for their corruption, but after Rudd and Bryce, New South Wales ALP have many questions to answer. And from Tim Blair, biscuit ban. You could hide a child labour in some of Sydney's potholes, but the council is dealing with bigger issues. Sydney Lord Mayor Clover Moore has banned Tim Tams from council events for fear they partially produced through cruel child labour on Africa's Ivory Coast. From now on, she'll only serve fair trade Tim Tams. Screen stars Prime Minister K. Punch meets President Obama prompt Telebama. More for you there at that link. Just like being there, the finest comic ever published, tax-funded naturally, read on and remain alert for the fierce drama of an unexpected yes-no question. Knight claimed an army of dim assembles. Twitterers, bloggers, podcasters, and Facebook users are getting behind Earth Hour in an unprecedented number as event organizers embrace the explosion of interest in online social networking. Fiorano Nano for sale, an 800 horsepower Ferrari F1 engine, only $90,000. You might think this device has no application outside of racetracks, but think again. By happy coincidence, an F1 car and a Tato Nano weigh almost exactly the same, 600 kilograms, and the Nano is already set up for a rear engine installation. Council says no. Life in country Victoria can't remove trees, can't shift rocks, can't use a dozer, and can't fix roads, according to Kinglake resident Chris Petraeus. The eventual full inquiry into these fires will be epic. Star collapses. Astrophysics in Ipswich. A large black hole appeared in the main intersection of one of Queensland's major regional cities today. Traffic was disrupted, which is the least you'd expect. Thus, nature balances itself. Whenever someone makes an epic attempt to reduce their environmental impact, they always write a book about it. Telly Frogger. Labour is committed to a culture of greater disclosure and transparency, according to Kevin Rudd. Indeed it is, especially towards the Chinese. The secret life of frogs now trumps the President of the United States. I bet their secret life involves former weathermen. A discriminating inquiry. A church and its believers pay a lot of money to create a school that inculcates their faith. Then this happens, writes Andrew Bolt. A Christian school in Werribee has been forced to defend its refusal to offer a training placement to a Muslim teaching student on the grounds of her religion. Victoria University student Rashida Dalal has reportedly lodged a complaint with the Equal Opportunities Commission against Heathdale Christian College, accusing it of discrimination and prejudice. How come Victoria's discrimination laws are now used so often against Christians, but virtually never against real hate preachers of other faiths? Bryce government reveals policy. Governor-General Quentin Bryce leaves yet another African journalist under the impression that she's running Rudd's government. Ms. Bryce said on Sunday that she was impressed with Zambia's policies to provide the underprivileged in society and that her government was ready to help. Maybe Clark's Kiwanomics will work for Africa. Having failed to develop New Zealand, former New Zealand Prime Minister Helen Clark has been appointed the head of the United Nations Development Programme. 3 soldiers down, Afghanistan is fast turning into a serious problem for the Rudd government, militarily and politically. 3 Australian soldiers have been wounded in Afghanistan by a roadside bomb after engaging Taliban fighters. The injuries come in the week after 2 Australian soldiers were killed in Afghanistan, bringing the death toll to 10. God save me. How banal has Western civilization become? So banal that when 2 of Britain's top artistic bureaucracies, now there's an oxymoron, combine to write a new national anthem, this is what they produce. I am England. England is inside of me. I am England. England is what I want her to be. Congratulations to the BBC and the Arts Council England for perfectly capturing these utterly self-absorbed and inarticulate times. Britain cremated. Britain's marvellous multiculturalism pitches an imported faith into conflict with the dominant one. The High Court is being asked to rule on the legality of open-air funeral pyres. According to the Anglo-Asian Friendship Society, past opposition on health and environment grounds no longer applies. Obama praises those who spend wildly too. Barack Obama yesterday cited Kevin Rudd and Gordon Brown as supporters of his brand of economics. What influence does China have over this government? The defense minister is not trusted by his own department, which has undertaken some extraordinary snooping. Officials in the Defense Department have conducted a covert investigation into their own minister, leaking personal information about Joel Fitzgibbon's relationship with a wealthy Chinese-born woman with past financial ties to Beijing. Mr. Fitzgibbon's 16-year friendship with Sydney businesswoman Helen Liu has been raised recently by officials within the department's intelligence and security areas as a possible security risk. Just the kook the UN would love. The United Nations saw something in Richard Falk that made it appoint him its expert on the Palestinian territories. Here's a clue from an article he wrote last November. Given the dark cloud of doubt that lingers over the official 911 narrative, why was the issue not even discussed during the many months of presidential campaigning? He goes on. Save the planet, but Gippsland? And all for a plan that couldn't stop global warming even if it hadn't already stopped a decade ago. By the way, what else are these governments keeping secret about the effects of global warming policies? Good and Bad Obamas Joust with Press by Bill O'Reilly. First of all, the press conference was designed to rally support for Mr. Obama's $3.6 trillion with a T budget, which has frightened many members of Congress. That kind of spending could lead to bankruptcy if the economy continues to be weak. While the president was authoritative Tuesday night, he was also dull and repetitive. Only a few times did he connect with the folks. But most of the time, President Obama gave long-winded answers and evaded direct questions. Here's an example of that. Jake Tapper from ABC News. Will you sign a budget if it does not contain a middle-class tax cut? Does not contain cap and trade? Obama, well, I've emphasized recently what I expected out of this budget. I expect that there are serious efforts at healthcare reform and what we're driving down costs for families and business and ultimately for the federal and state governments that are going to be broke if we continue on their current path. I've said that we've got to have a serious energy policy that frees ourselves from dependence on foreign oil and makes clean energy the profitable kind of energy. That from the great communicator. Heard it all before. The president went on, never answering that question. Talking points? Suspect many Americans missing the singing on American Idol Tuesday night, but there was some dancing as the president just demonstrated. Just little press conference levity. All in all, pretty much the same old stuff. Important stuff, but not much new in his presentation.